The colony ship Hope's Journey drifted silently through the darkness of space, carrying 2,000 sleeping humans to their new home. In the command center, Admiral James Walker stood watching the stars, his son's small hand held tightly in his own. 6-year-old Tom pressed his nose against the thick glass, eyes wide with wonder at the endless field of stars before them. "Look, Dad, another shooting star." Tom pointed excitedly at a streak of light in the distance. James felt his stomach tighten. Those weren't shooting stars. "Tom, I need you to go to your mother right now." He keyed his communicator. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill." The streaks of light grew larger, revealing themselves as the sleek, silver warships of the Galactic Council. Their pointed hulls and swept-back wings made them look like predatory birds hunting in the void of space. 5 ships in total, each one larger than the colony vessel. Warning signals blared throughout the ship. James watched as his crew scrambled to their positions, knowing full well their outdated weapons would be useless against Council shields. Humanity had only been allowed limited technology since joining the galactic community 50 years ago. A harsh voice crackled over the communication system. "Human vessel, you have entered restricted space. Your expansion beyond approved zones will not be tolerated. Prepare to receive our response to this violation." James grabbed the comm unit. "Council vessels, this is Admiral James Walker. We're a civilian colony ship with families aboard. Our navigation charts show this as approved space. Please verify your data." The response came quickly, cold, and decisive. "The charts have been updated. Your presence here is illegal. An example must be set." Emergency alarms screamed through the ship. James's blood ran cold as he saw his son's escape pod launch. A malfunction in the safety systems. Tom's scared face appeared on the small pod's communication screen. Dad, what's happening?" "It's okay, son. Stay calm. We're bringing you back in." James turned to his crew. "Get that pod back now." But before anyone could act, one of the Council ships turned its weapons toward the tiny pod. James watched in horror as the massive gun batteries tracked their target. No, he's just a child." James screamed into the comm. "There are children aboard. Stand down." The Council's response was emotionless. "The young must learn that actions have consequences. Your species requires a reminder of its place." Time seemed to slow as James watched the energy beam lance out from the Council ship. The escape pod, no larger than a small car, erupted in a brief flash of light. Then there was nothing but scattered debris where his son had been moments before. Silence fell over the command center. James stood frozen, his hand still reaching toward the viewport where Tom's pod had been. Around him, crew members wept quietly at their stations. The Council ships maintained their position, weapons still trained on the colony vessel. "Let this serve as a warning to all humans. Return to your approved zones immediately. Further violations will be met with similar responses." James didn't move as the Council ships turned and disappeared into hyperspace. He stood there, staring at the empty space where his son had died, something breaking deep inside him. His fingers traced the cold glass of the viewport, touching the spot where he'd last seen Tom's smile. Hours later, when the colony ship had changed course back toward Earth, James sat alone in his quarters. His hand shook as he recorded a message to Earth Command, documenting what had happened. He didn't know that at that very moment, deep beneath Earth's surface, ancient sensors were detecting his son's death, analyzing the energy signatures of the Council weapons. In the darkness below Earth's crust, something vast and powerful began to stir. Humanity had forgotten its true heritage, but the ancient guardians had never stopped watching. The death of one innocent child was about to awaken forces that would reshape the galaxy. And in his quarters, James Walker made a silent promise to his son. The Council would learn that humanity was far more than they had believed. They would learn the true cost of their cruelty. Dr. Anna Reed stared at her computer screen in confusion. For the third time that night, her instruments had detected strange energy pulses coming from deep within the Earth. She took another sip of cold coffee and adjusted her glasses, watching as new readings appeared across the monitor. "This can't be right," she muttered, checking the data again. The energy signatures were unlike anything she'd seen before, and they were growing stronger by the hour. She had first noticed them shortly after receiving news about the Council's attack on the colony ship. The phone on her desk rang, making her jump. Dr. Reed speaking. "Doctor, you need to come to Site B immediately." Her assistant's voice was shaking. "Something's happening with the old cave system we've been studying. The whole ground is humming." Within an hour, Anna stood at the entrance of a massive cave in the Rocky Mountains, watching in amazement as the solid rock wall at the back began to change. Lines of blue light spread across its surface like glowing veins, forming complex patterns that seemed to pulse with life. "Everyone stand back," she ordered, as the wall began to split open. The sound of ancient machinery, dormant for thousands of years, echoed through the cave. A door, hidden for millennia, slowly opened to reveal a dark corridor lined with metal walls. Anna's team set up powerful lights, revealing that the corridor stretched far into the mountain. The walls were covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. As Anna approached, the symbols began to glow, and a soft voice filled the air. "Genetic sequence recognized. Welcome, descendant." The team froze. Anna found her voice first. What are you?" "I am Guardian Interface 7, created to protect the knowledge and power of your ancestors until their return was necessary." The voice was calm, almost gentle. "The death of the child has triggered emergency protocols. The ancient fleet must awaken." Similar reports began pouring in from around the world. In the Sahara Desert, massive doors opened in the sand, revealing underground hangars. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, forgotten bases powered up, sending waves of energy through the water. In the Antarctic ice, vast chambers began to thaw, their contents stirring after 50,000 years of sleep. Anna's phone buzzed with a message from Earth Command. They wanted her at their headquarters immediately. As she hurried to her car, Guardian 7 spoke again. "Dr. Reed, you must understand quickly. Your people were not always as you are now. Earth was once the center of a vast empire, protectors of countless species across multiple galaxies. When the Great Darkness came, your ancestors chose to hide their power and sleep, knowing they would be needed again." In her car, driving through the night, Anna listened as Guardian 7 explained through her phone. The images it showed her were almost impossible to believe. Vast fleets of ships, technologies beyond imagination, and a human civilization that had reached heights her people had forgotten were possible. "The Galactic Council knows this history," Guardian 7 continued. "They are descendants of those who oppose your ancestors' role as guardians. They have worked to keep humanity weak, afraid that you might remember your true strength." At Earth Command Headquarters, Anna found chaos. Admiral Walker had just returned with the colony ship, his face gray with grief. On screens around the room, more reports poured in of ancient facilities awakening around the world. As Anna shared what she had learned, the ground beneath them trembled. Deep below the command center, something massive was rising. Guardian 7's voice now came through all their systems. "The death of an innocent has broken the seals. The ancient fleet rises. Humanity will remember what they once were, and the galaxy will remember why they were both loved and feared. The time of awakening has begun." Through the command center windows, they watched as the ground split open, and the first of the ancient ships rose into the night sky, its hull gleaming with the same blue light that had marked the cave entrance. This was only the beginning. The world stood still as they watched the ancient ships rise. From every continent, massive vessels broke free from their underground slumber. Their hulls shimmered with patterns of blue light, each one larger than the biggest ships humanity had built in modern times. Admiral Walker stood beside Dr. Reed at Earth Command, watching the screens that showed the awakening happening worldwide. His grief for Tom was still raw, but now it mixed with awe at what was unfolding. "These ships recognize our commands," one of the technicians reported, his voice filled with wonder. "The systems are linking with our computers, but they're far beyond anything we've ever seen." Through the command center's windows, they watched as 3 enormous ships rose from beneath the nearby mountains. Their designs were sleek yet powerful, nothing like the boxy vessels of modern Earth or even the bird-like ships of the Council. These ships looked like they had been drawn with starlight. "Admiral Walker," Guardian 7's voice came through the speakers. "The fleet awaits its commander. Your genetic line was part of the ancient admiralty. The ships remember." James walked to the window, placing his hand against the glass. "How many?" he asked quietly. 10,000 ships of war," Guardian 7 replied, "and many more support vessels. The full might of humanity's ancient defense fleet, hidden here on Earth when your ancestors went into their long sleep." In orbit, satellites showed more vessels rising. From the depths of the oceans, massive shapes broke the surface, water cascading from their gleaming hulls. From the polar ice caps, ships that had slept in frozen tombs pushed free into the dark sky. The largest ship, rising from beneath the Pacific, was almost the size of a small city. Its hull bore markings that glowed with intense blue light, and as it reached orbit, smaller ships fell into formation around it. "That is the Starbourne," Guardian 7 explained. "The flagship of humanity's fleet. Admiral Walker, it calls for you." A beam of light surrounded James, and suddenly he found himself standing on the bridge of the Starbourne. The command center stretched out before him, more advanced than anything he had ever seen. Holographic displays filled the air, showing him the positions of every ship in the fleet. Dr. Reed appeared beside him, transported by another beam. "The AI systems are fully active," she reported, looking at the data flowing through the air around them. "They're connecting to every piece of modern technology we have. It's like they're teaching our systems how to evolve." Guardian 7's voice now filled the bridge. "The fleet's weapons are charging. Defensive systems are online. We detect 57 Council observation posts in this sector alone. They are watching." James walked to the captain's position, memories of Tom giving him strength. The command chair recognized him immediately, interfaces appearing around him. Knowledge flooded his mind. How to control the ship, its capabilities, its history. "Send a message to every human settlement and ship," he ordered. Tell them it's time to come home." Across the galaxy, human colonies and outposts received the signal. The message carried with it images of the fleet, proof that humanity had awakened to its true power. On colony worlds, hidden bunkers began to open. On trading stations, secret chambers revealed themselves. In orbit around Earth, the fleet continued to grow. 5,000 ships had already taken position, their hulls catching the sun's light. 5,000 more were still rising. Each one was a masterpiece of technology, built by ancestors who had reached the stars long before written history began. "Admiral," one of the bridge crew called out, "Council ships are approaching the edge of our solar system. Long-range sensors detect 30 vessels." James stood from the command chair, his eyes hard. The same Council ships that had killed his son were about to learn what they had awakened. "Power up the main weapons," he ordered. "Let's show them what humanity remembers." The Starbourne's engines began to glow, and around it, 10,000 ships of the ancient fleet moved in perfect formation. Humanity's lost guardians had returned, and the galaxy was about to change forever. On the bridge of the Starbourne, Dr. Reed watched in amazement as ancient records played across the holographic screens. The true history of humanity unfolded before her eyes, far different from anything they had known. "Our ancestors weren't just explorers," she said softly, turning to Admiral Walker. "We were guardians of the entire galaxy." The records showed vast human fleets protecting younger species, helping them grow and learn. They watched as ancient humans built great defense networks spanning multiple galaxies, all designed to protect life wherever it emerged. But what were they protecting everyone from? James asked, his eyes fixed on the displays. Guardian 7's voice filled the bridge. The Void Hunters. They came from between galaxies, consuming all life they found. Your ancestors stood against them when no one else could. The battle lasted for 10,000 years. New images appeared, showing massive dark ships that seemed to swallow light itself. The ancient human fleets fought them back, protecting countless worlds and species, but the cost had been enormous. The Council. Dr. Reed's voice trailed off as she watched the records. They were refugees we protected. We gave them technology, helped them rebuild their worlds after the hunters destroyed them. James's hands tightened on his command chair. And this is how they repaid us, by turning against us when we were vulnerable. The records showed the final days of the ancient war. The Void Hunters had been pushed back, but humanity's fleets were scattered and damaged. The remaining admirals made a decision. They would hide their power on Earth, going into deep sleep until they were needed again. Look at this, Dr. Reed pointed to new data streaming across the screens. Defense stations, hidden throughout the galaxy. They're all starting to wake up. Across space, ancient human outposts began powering up. Massive defense platforms, hidden in asteroid fields and inside gas giants, came back to life. Weapon systems that could destroy stars if necessary, all built to protect life in the galaxy, all waiting for humanity's return. On the Starbourne's bridge, more information poured in. The ship's AI showed them how the Council had found Earth thousands of years later, discovering a new human civilization growing from the ashes of the old. Instead of helping humanity remember its heritage, they chose to keep them weak. All the limited technology they gave us, James said, anger in his voice. The restrictions on where we could go, what we could build. They were afraid we'd remember who we really were. Guardian 7 displayed more records. They attacked any human settlement that showed signs of advancing too quickly. They destroyed research stations, sabotaged experiments. The death of your son, Admiral, was meant to remind humanity to stay in its place. Instead, it has awakened the sleeping giant. Through the ship's windows, they could see the entire human fleet now assembled in orbit around Earth. 10,000 ships of war, each one carrying weapons that could destroy entire fleets. But they had been built not for conquest, but for protection. Admiral, a crew member called out, "We're detecting more Council ships entering the system. Their weapons are powered up." James stood from his command chair, looking at the tactical display. The Council ships were approaching in attack formation, probably thinking they could still intimidate Earth into submission. They had no idea what they were facing. "Dr. Reed," he said, "send them the historical records. Show them exactly who we were and who we are again." He turned to his crew. "Power up all defensive systems, but do not fire unless fired upon. It's time to show them that the Guardians of the Galaxy have returned." The Starbourne's engines hummed with power as the ancient fleet moved to meet the Council ships. Humanity's legacy was about to be revealed to those who had tried to keep it hidden, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Council ships hung in space like dark birds against the stars, their weapons charged and aimed at Earth. But this time, they faced something very different from the weak human vessels they were used to bullying. Council vessels, Admiral Walker's voice carried across space. "This is the Starbourne. You are facing the restored fleet of Earth's ancient guardians. Power down your weapons. We wish to talk." On the Starbourne's bridge, Dr. Reed monitored the Council ships' reactions. Their energy readings spiked as they realized the true size of the fleet facing them. 10,000 ancient warships surrounded them, each one powerful enough to destroy their entire attack force. "They're scanning us," she reported. "Their computers are trying to understand our technology." She paused, a small smile forming. "They're failing." The Council's response came quickly, their usual arrogance replaced by uncertainty. "This is impossible. Earth is a primitive world. These ships cannot be yours." James thought of his son, of Tom's smile as he looked at the stars. His voice was cold when he answered, "Let me show you how wrong you are." He nodded to Dr. Reed, who pressed a series of holographic controls. A single beam of light shot out from the starboard, touching one of the Council ships. In an instant, all power on the Council vessel died. It floated helplessly in space, its weapons and engines completely disabled. That was at 1% power, James announced to the remaining Council ships. Shall I demonstrate what our weapons can do at full strength? The Council fleet began to retreat, but James wasn't finished. With another command, the Starborn created a field of energy around their ships, freezing them in place. They hung there, unable to move or fight back, finally understanding what true power felt like. On Earth, governments around the world were uniting in response to the crisis. The President of Earth's United Nations spoke to all of humanity through a global broadcast, her voice firm and clear. Today, we remember who we are, she announced. We were not meant to be limited, to be controlled, to be afraid. We were the guardians of this galaxy, and we will be again. But this time, we will not forget our purpose. The ancient ships picked up signals from across the galaxy. Other human colonies, hearing about what had happened, were finding their own hidden treasures. Underground bases were opening on dozens of worlds. Humanity everywhere was awakening to its true heritage. Guardian 7's voice echoed through the starborn. Admiral, we're detecting more Council fleets approaching from multiple sectors. They're mobilizing their entire military force. James looked at the tactical display, watching as hundreds of Council ships appeared at the edges of the solar system. They still thought they could win through numbers alone. They didn't understand that humanity's weapons had once held back threats far worse than them. Dr. Reed, he said quietly, activate the defense network. Anna's fingers danced across the holographic controls. Across the galaxy, ancient defense platforms powered up. Massive weapon systems, hidden in the hearts of stars and the centers of gas giants, came online. A web of power stretched between them, creating a shield that could protect entire sectors of space. The Council ships froze as their sensors detected the awakening defenses. They had never imagined that the humans they had oppressed for so long had such power sleeping beneath their feet. Your choice, James broadcast to all Council ships. Retreat and prepare for peaceful talks, or learn why the Void Hunters feared us so much. We were not meant to be your subjects. We were meant to be the shield that protects all life in this galaxy. It's time for things to return to how they should be. The Council ships remained still, their commanders finally understanding the terrible mistake they had made. By killing one innocent child, they had awakened humanity's full power. And now they would face the consequences of their actions. Dr. Reed stood in the Council's central archive, surrounded by ancient data crystals that held the true history of their actions. The Council leaders had surrendered access to their records after seeing the full power of Earth's awakened fleet. What she found made her blood run cold. They knew everything, she told Admiral Walker through her communicator. They've been watching Earth for thousands of years, making sure we stayed weak. James walked through his ship's holographic display of the archives, reading report after report of the Council's secret operations. Show me, he said quietly. The records revealed decades of careful planning. Council agents had destroyed promising research facilities, eliminated scientists who came too close to discovering advanced technologies, and sabotaged any human progress that might lead to remembering their true heritage. Every time we got close to a breakthrough, Anna said, her voice shaking with anger, they stopped us. The London Research Center explosion 5 years ago. That was them. The Mars colony accident. Them too. They've been killing our people for years. Guardian 7's voice added to the conversation. They feared your return. The records show they discovered Earth's sleeping guardians 3,000 years ago. Instead of waking humanity, they chose to ensure you would never remember your power. More records appeared, showing Council meetings where they planned how to keep humanity contained. They had deliberately given Earth outdated technology, making humans think they were being helped while actually keeping them dependent on the Council. Tom wasn't the first child they killed. James realized, reading through more reports. They've been making examples of anyone who pushed too far beyond their restrictions. They called it pruning the tree to keep it small. The archives showed how the Council had built their entire civilization using stolen human technology. They had found ancient human outposts and bases, taking what they could understand and destroying the rest. Everything they had taken from the very people they now try to control. Admiral, a crew member called out, "We're detecting energy signals from other sectors of the galaxy. More human defense systems are activating. It's happening faster than we expected." On the Starborn's main screen, they watched as ancient human bases and colonies began powering up across multiple galaxies. Each one had been hidden away during the war, with the Void Hunters waiting for the signal to wake up. "The Council's worst nightmare," Anna said, looking at the data streams. "They tried so hard to keep us from remembering. But now everything is waking up at once. Look at this. There are whole fleets of ships still hidden out there, waiting for us to find them." James walked to the front of his bridge, watching as new signals appeared across the galaxy map. Each light represented another piece of humanity's lost empire coming back to life. The Council had failed. Their lies were exposed, and their power was broken. "Send all of this to every human colony and settlement," he ordered. "Show everyone what they tried to hide from us. Show them who we really are." The truth spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humans everywhere learned how they had been deceived, controlled, and held back. The anger was massive, but so was the joy of finally remembering their true purpose. "Admiral," Guardian 7 announced, "the defense network is fully active. All ancient systems are responding. Humanity's full power is restored." In the Council archives, Dr. Reed found one last record, dated from just before they first contacted Earth. It read, "As long as they don't remember who they were, we can control them. But if they ever wake up, if they ever remember their true power, everything we built will fall." She smiled as she closed the file. "Well," she said to herself, "I guess they were right about that part." The Council's greatest fear had come true. Humanity had remembered, and now they would never forget again. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as Admiral Walker entered. The Council members, once so proud and powerful, sat in their high seats looking small and afraid. Behind James, through the massive windows, Earth's ancient fleet filled the sky, a reminder of humanity's awakened power. "You took my son from me," James said, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. "You thought killing him would keep humanity afraid and weak. Instead, you woke us up." Dr. Reed stood beside him, holding a data crystal containing all the evidence of the Council's crimes. "For thousands of years, you lied to us. You pretended to help while holding us back. That ends today." The Council leader stood, his usual arrogance replaced by desperate fear. "We only did what we thought was necessary. Your people were too powerful. Someone had to control you." "No," James replied firmly. "We weren't meant to be controlled. We were meant to protect, to guard, to help others grow." He looked around the chamber. "That's what we'll do again, but this time, there will be changes." Through the windows, they could see more ancient human ships appearing from hyperspace. The defense network was fully awake now, spreading across the galaxy like a web of light. Humanity's protection was returning to all the worlds they had once guarded. "Your council will be reformed," James announced. "But this time, you'll work with us, not against us. The lies end here. The killing ends here. We're taking back our role as guardians, but we haven't forgotten what you did." Guardian 7's voice filled the chamber, making the Council members jump. "The ancient defense systems are fully operational. The sleeping fleets have all awakened. Humanity's network now protects 342 galaxies, just as it did before." Dr. Reed stepped forward, activating a holographic display. "We found records of 27 other species you've been holding back, just like you did to us. Worlds you've kept from growing. Civilizations you forced to stay primitive. That stops now. James thought of Tom as he spoke his next words. In memory of every innocent life you've taken, every person you've killed to keep your power, here are our terms. The terms appeared in glowing letters above the council chamber. The council would be reformed under human oversight. All restricted technologies would be released to developing worlds. Every world would be free to grow and advance at its own pace. The council's military forces would be disbanded. Ancient human defense systems would protect all worlds equally. But most importantly, James said, his voice growing stronger, you will help us prepare. The council leader looked up sharply. Prepare? For what? The Void Hunters, Dr. Reed answered. Our ancient records show they return every 100,000 years. They're due back soon. That's why we built all these defenses in the first place. That's why we were the Guardians. Through the windows, they could see Earth's fleet moving into defensive positions around various worlds. They were taking up their old roles, protecting all life, not just human life. The choice is yours, James told the council. Work with us to protect all life in this galaxy, or step aside and let us do what we were meant to do. But either way, the old council is finished. One by one, the council members stood and bowed their heads, accepting the terms. They had no choice. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. Later, on the bridge of the Starborn, James stood looking out at the stars. A small hologram of Tom played near his command chair, a memory captured before that terrible day. But now his son's death had led to something greater, the return of humanity's true purpose. We're ready, Admiral, Dr. Reed reported. The first ships are heading out to wake up the outer colonies. James nodded, watching as Earth's ships spread out across the stars. They were guardians again, protectors of life, defenders against the darkness. And this time, they would never forget who they were. Let's go, he said quietly. We have worlds to protect. The ancient fleet moved out into the galaxy, carrying humanity's renewed purpose with them. The age of lies was over. The age of the Guardians had returned.